So hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Amesie's Corner. How you guys all doing out there? So I'm just taking a road test in this Trailblazer. We're trying to get the readiness flags here to pass so it can take a state inspection sticker, make sure that check engine light stays out. But I figured I'd take a minute and have a little story for you guys, a little story time about a car, one car we've all owned. We've all owned and driven this one car. Everybody, I don't care who you are, you've all driven it. And that would be your first car. So I was looking through some social media posts and stuff from different people and whatnot, and I came across some videos of my first car. The first car I ever owned was a 1990 Mazda Miata. Perfect first car for someone like me. But really cool story behind that car, and I found some of the videos, so we'll take a look at the video. But anyways, the story behind this car was back in about 2001, the summer of 2000, we'll call it. I was a tech at a Mazda dealer. It was actually a Porsche, Audi, Mazda, Isuzu dealer, all under one roof, and kind of where I started out being a real tech. I had jobs turning wrenches for years and years leading up to that job, but I got this job. I didn't even have a driver's license. Just a funny story. Being a kid growing up in a small town where there was nothing to do but just drive dirt bikes off-road. Plenty of woods, no movie theater, no arcade, no real anything for young guys to do but get in trouble. And I did plenty of that. But yeah, riding dirt bikes was all there was to do, and I used to just get anything running, dirt bikes, four-wheelers, whatever you would find in the mid-80s, rotting in somebody's backyard. I'd knock on the door and ask if I could have it, and I was always really good at getting rusty, crusty stuff running. So yeah, what I would do is I'd get the stuff, I'd get the bikes, the whatever, what have you, go-karts, mini bikes, so much stuff. I would get them running, and I would just take off down the street, just go ride down the street, you know, 12, 13, 14 years old on a half-running Honda CB 554, and that would catch the attention of the man. So yeah, I got in a lot of trouble on dirt bikes, on four-wheelers, on old motorcycles, and I lost my ability to get my license until I was 24. They called me a habitual traffic offender before I could even, you know, go get on the road. So yeah, I lost my license till I was 24. But when I got hired at Mazda at this dealer, they knew I didn't have a license. I was so good at a young age at fixing stuff that just the word got out there, and I did a few years at a full-time dealer without even being able to drive the cars. But time goes by, and they lifted that restriction. I had to pay my dues. I paid my dues and got my license. And I had my license for about 2 weeks or so. I didn't have a vehicle at yet, hadn't found anything. And just working at the dealer, just working on cars. And we had a Miata come in. The transmission was locked in 2 gears at once. The car couldn't even be pushed. You had to jack the rear end up just to move it from one side of a parking lot to another. A few other issues, had some body damage in the front right. The rear brakes had been metal to metal so long that it wore the rotors right off the car, wore them right out. So this was only, at the time, this 90 Miata was only 10 years old. So really not that old by today's standards. But the gentleman had other priorities, and he couldn't afford, didn't want to fix the car, didn't I don't know. So he asked the service writer at the time if anybody wanted the car, and she knew, it was a female service advisor, Debbie was her name. She knew I was looking for a car, so she said, hey, I got just the tech out here, just got his license, you know, blah blah blah. So they come out, they get me, I go into the front office, the guy, you know, introduces himself, I introduce myself. He shakes my hand, looks me in the eye and he goes, "How much money you got in your wallet?" I didn't think much of it. Oh, in my wallet I had 76 bucks. He goes, "Sold." He sells me this 1990 Mazda Miata, 10 years old. It had 75,000 miles on it for $75 freaking dollars. Plus I had to pay his bill. He owed an hour of labor, but the service guys, they let it go at my shop rate, so I had to pay another 35 bucks. So that's how I got that car. 1990 Mazda Miata for whatever I had in my pocket. And it was such an awesome thing. Ended up, you know, working out. I'm a young guy with a cool little roadster working as a tech at a Mazda dealer. It did not take me long to get that car back straight. You know, fixed up the transmission. I ended up going in with some screwdrivers through the drain hole and popped it. I'm not sure exactly how we got it. It was in reverse and first. So if it wasn't in neutral, and we were able to go in and slide the synchros into place and get it to actually shift again, and that was pretty cool. And I drove the car for about 2 years or so, slowly doing upgrades, stuff from the Mazda parts catalog. Now, one thing with a lot of vehicles that they release, as they release newer versions of the car year after year, they make certain changes. And the strange thing with the Miata, a lot of those changes fit the older cars. So why don't you guys take a quick look at some of the clips I got of that car. It's actually my little brother, he had got it from me after I sold it, and he proceeded to beat the thing into the ground, and you'll see, check that out. So yeah, guys, I apologize for the video quality, but this was a few years back. This probably would have been 2005 that those videos were taken. It was a silver car when I owned it. He painted it black with the white stripes. Then he painted it red, and then he painted it another color, and then another color. But when I went to my Mazda training courses, the instructor, Ernie Darrow was his name, he had a whole bunch of crate motors just in case they had to take them apart, or I don't know, he just had them. So one day he knew I was having some problems with the first gen Miatas. They had a weak crank nose, and me driving the car, I drove that car pretty hard. I started to wear out the crank nose on it, so I couldn't drive it to training, which was, you know, about a 100-mile one-way trip from here. So I drove some piece of junk motorcycle there. He got such a kick out of the whole story with the car that when in training one day, we go to lunch, come out of lunch, and there's a crate Miata motor sitting in my chair, like next to my chair, and I'm like, he goes, 30 pack of Bud Light for a crate motor, brand new crate motor. So yeah, I had a brand new crate motor in that car. It was a blast. Ended up porting the head, did some other work to it, and yeah, that's the story of my first car. I ended up driving it. I ended up needing something bigger, so I traded it off for free rent somewhere. I lived in a motorhome for a little bit. That's another story for you guys. But I ended up trading it off for free rent for a year, and then my brother ended up buying it off of that person, and he beat it and beat it and beat it for a good number of years until he finally blew the thrust washers. Manual transmission cars put a lot of thrust force on the crank, and he blew the thrust washers out of it. So all intents and purposes, he pretty much toasted the motor. And I had it back for a little while, but I just, like, my problem right now, I just can't store cars. So some life got in the way, and I ended up having to just let it go. So I don't know, that car might still exist. If any of you are my fans and you know the story of my Miata, I know a few of you out there know it. AJ, if you're watching, if you know any information, leave it down in the comments. I'd love to find that car right now. I'd have a blast. I'd rebuild that thing. Can you imagine going back and owning your first car over again? What would you do different? Well, how about that, guys? I want to hear you guys' first car story. We've all got it. We've all had one. We've all had the first car. So yeah, if it's just you got a story of a beater you picked up or something unique you got for your first car, I'd love to hear it. If it was just your grandparents' car, let me know down in the comments. Leave your comments. Thumbs ups are appreciated. Thumbs down are fine. That means you watched it. And love the comments, guys. But anyways, looks like I got one readiness flag passed. This might take a sticker, it might not. The green arrow's on. So anyways, I gotta get this back to the shop, see if we can get a legal eagle, and until next time, guys, keep it out of the cabbage.